How many people have met people that you're Twittering with for the first time here? Okay, so much for social media not really connecting people. That's one of the things that we have been doing. We've been connecting educators on Twitter through what we called EdChat, and you might as well.
So EdChat is a hashtag that Tom and Shelley and myself sort of kind of happened upon back in the summer of 2009. And Tom is an instigator. Tom likes to ask questions that infuriate people, that presses their buttons, but that stretches their thinking. And so he was talking to Shelley and said, "Help, Shelley, I need somebody to help defend me." And then they got the crazy idea that maybe we could do this once a week, where we could have educators chatting on the same hashtag talking about a particular topic. They came to me and I said, well, heck, why don't we just let the community kind of vote on what they want to talk about? So we created a poll, and we're going into our second year with over 500 people a week.
At least. Yeah.
But EdChat has grown into more than just the chat itself. You know, you can go online like tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern, and there will be a chat. In fact, there will be one today at noon. The noon chat grew out of a need for social media is not necessarily local, so we had people who were participating in EdChat from Europe, from Africa, from Australia, who 7 o'clock Eastern wasn't really a convenience for them. So they said, well, we want to kind of do another time that's better for us, so that's where the noon chat came from. And from there, it's kind of the idea of the educational chat on Twitter has grown into this, no matter what your topic is or what your subject area is or what you teach or what you want to know about, we can pretty much find a chat for you. And if there isn't one, then we'll tell you how to start one. And we don't have the magic formula. We just we happened upon it.
We were there in the beginning.
We were there in the beginning. So, you know, if you're an English teacher, there's Eng Chat. If you're a social studies teacher, there's social studies chat. If you're a principal, there's CP chat. You know, and all these chats may or may not take place at a given time. They may or may not take place at a given day, but they're a way for people to connect to each other. So if I'm an educator and I'm in isolation and I'm teaching in a building where no one buys the idea of social media and no one buys the idea that real-time information is important, I have this community of people that I can rely on through these chats and through these hashtags that allow me to connect to other people that help me push my thinking, to help me share resources, that helps me grow and become a better educator. So the chat itself is a wonderful, wonderful thing where we've been able to talk about lots of different things. We've been able to talk to lots of different people. We did a session with Alfie Cohen where he talked to us for an hour about testing and homework. We recently talked to Gary Steger. We recently talked to Diane Ravitch. I mean, these are people who are, you know, some of the most well-known educators in the world who are giving their time to talk to us for an hour. You know, and it would be hard to do without that Twitter piece, without that social media piece.
Yeah. Social media itself has lent itself to educators. We're no longer isolated. We are connected. And I often use the expression, teachers don't know what they don't know. Well, they're learning how to find out about what it is they don't know by collaborating and talking with other educators about topics that concern them. If you're an educator, there are questions that you have about certain things that you can't ask your own staff about. When I was teaching on a secondary level, I had 11 English teachers in my building that I could go to and say, you know, what's the best way for me to do Romeo and Juliet? And they would be very good at it. But what I did was I used technology as a learning tool, so I wanted to incorporate more technology into the way I was teaching. I could not go to those 11 people because they would come to me for the technology advice. So what I was able to do from that point on was to break those barriers down and go out on the internet and connect with people who were using those tools for learning, technology tools for learning, and find out what it is that they were successful with. So that's opened up a whole area for me. I really got involved in this whole thing, just connecting with professors, because after teaching English for 34 years, I figured I could go in and teach anybody to be an English teacher, and after my first class, I figured I had no idea what I was doing. So I created a group called Technology Using Professors on LinkedIn. That's got 2,500 people right now. All professors, all using technology, or they're professors who want to use technology, and they're having discussions every day about how to do that.
So your Romeo and Juliet example, I think, is wonderful because, people ask us all the time about, why is it the fact that when people get together on Twitter and they talk for an hour, how does that provide impact for the classroom? Well, I think that the chat goes beyond the actual chat. It's more about the hashtags and creating the hashtags that allow people to follow specific conversations. And your Romeo and Juliet example reminds me of Nick Provenzano and Shannon Miller, who Shannon is a librarian in Iowa, and Nick is a high school English teacher outside of Detroit. And they came up with this idea that they were going to have their kids do they were going to do this massive Romeo and Juliet project together. And they did it, and they cultivated it through a hashtag where their kids worked together, their kids worked on a lot of projects. They did all kinds of things. So, the hashtags themselves allow us to find people with similar interests. And yeah, if there's a chat associated with it where you and I can have a conversation and you can stretch my thinking and I can stretch your thinking, that's great. I mean, that's what we aim to do each week in coming up with some of these topics and having people submit topics. That's what we want to do. We want to stretch people's thinking and get them thinking differently about the way education should be, or thinking differently about the way they're teaching in their classroom. But beyond that, these hashtags are houses of information that allow us to connect to each other, to share resources, to say, hey, I'm having a really crappy day because my lesson in my first period bombed. Can somebody help me? And you can get back 20, 30 resources that are ready to go for the next class period. So they go beyond the chats themselves. They're, like I said, those houses of information.
One of the things that we did with EdChat, we created the hashtag specifically for the chats. But what has gone on, it's evolved so much that people automatically put the EdChat hashtag on any educational tweet that they put out. Because what it does, it extends the number of followers. There are literally thousands of educators who follow the EdChat hashtag. So if you've only got about 50 or 60 followers, if you just tweet it out to them, they see it. But if you put the EdChat hashtag on it, it goes out to literally thousands of educators around the world. And we never understood that when we started this whole thing.
No, one of the first chats that we did back in September or October of 2009, EdChat was the number 5 trending topic worldwide on Twitter. Now, of course, they've changed the way that works now, and so you get really terrible hashtags that are the trending topics now. But, the chats are a really incredible thing. And, people ask us and they say to us, or we hear, well, why are they valuable? What meaning do they provide for you? And I can recite tons and tons of examples of people sending me tweets and sending Tom tweets and sending emails that say, because of something we talked about in EdChat, I went to my classroom and I did this. Or because of something that somebody shared on EdChat, I was able to go to my principal and say, here's why we shouldn't block these websites in our school, and they're no longer blocked. So the chat itself is meaningful, it's important, it means the world to both of us, but beyond that, it's people sharing and gathering ideas and sharing those resources and coming up with new and innovative ways to do things, that they're actually going out. We say at the end of every chat, what are you going to do now? What are your action steps? Where do you want to go from here? So we've talked about this stuff for an hour, but if we stay in this echo chamber, it does nothing. It's like all of us here, if we stay in this echo chamber of the 140 and we don't go out and do anything, then what have we done? We need to go out and we need to have those action steps. What are our action plans? What do we want to do? That's what we do at the end of every chat. Maybe it's a blog post where you extend your ideas. Maybe you're physically going out in your classroom and you're trying something that somebody did or that somebody told you about. There's lots of ways and there's lots of reasons that the chats are meaningful, but I think it's what happens after the chat that provides the most value for me.
I can't tell you how many educators, just based on their EdChat experiences, have become bloggers. because they wanted to say more that they couldn't say in the chat. The chat was a very small thing, but it got them thinking, and it got them moving, and they became bloggers. And you can see the day after an ed chat, the number of blog posts that make reference to, various things that came up in the chat.
Well, in that blog, I liken blogs so that they're those personal open reflections. So if I'm personally open reflecting about something that I've said or something that somebody else said, that's nobody would know anything if we weren't sharing. I mean, that's how learning happens, is through sharing and growing. And so those are those times that people are really able to reflect, that they do those through their blogs. You have questions for us?
We are Ed Chat.
There are a lot of people who help us. Shelley Terrell, who's here. Mary Beth Hertz, who is here. She's one of our moderators. Kyle Pace, who's teaching, or who's doing he's not here, but he's doing a conference in Tennessee. Jerry Bloomgarden, Cyber Man, who is a tremendous, and if you want to know more about chats and know about any educational hashtag, Jerry is the man when it comes to that stuff. We have people from all over the world who moderate, and who, Jerry Swadek, who does our archive at edchat.pbworks.com, where you can find every single ed chat we've ever done archived. Bernie from England, she does the noon chat. So I mean, it's not just us, it's a lot of people, and it goes beyond those people. It's the educator community in general, who if they really didn't want to get together and talk about it, then we really wouldn't be sitting here. And I think that's the thing to take away, is to help teachers and help educators, no matter what they do in education. We all need to get off our island, and we all need to go out and bust down the walls, and I know it's cliche, but we do. We need to get connected. We need to find a way to connect ourselves to other people with similar interests, because we take those ideas and we take those resources and we bring them back to our classroom with the ultimate goal of making learning better for our kids.
And another result of EdChat was the Educators PLN, which is a Ning site. If you're not on it, you may want to look at it, where we got to store all of this information that was coming across the internet, and we started putting links as sources and connecting people on the Educators PLN. That's got about 10,000 educators at this point are involved with the Educator PLN.
So we have lots of, with Tom and I were talking last night, and the chats are an easy in to people. I've totally changed the way that I teach teachers about Twitter. And one of the first things I show them is how to follow a chat without joining Twitter. You don't have to contribute anything, but if you just follow and listen and watch, you can do that without having the Twitter account. They're an easy in to the world of real-time media for teachers. It's a very easy way. So if you've got people who are skeptical about those things, find one of the chats. Find math chat, find Ink chat, fourth grade chat, third grade chat, whatever. Find one, find the hashtag and follow it, and then become a more active member of the Twitter community.
Thank you. Thank you, really. Thanks so much.